latest edition of the Sharesify Talks Shares podcast. I'm Stephen Frazer, and I'm joined, as always, by my podcast partner in crime, Ian Conway. How are you, Ian?
I'm good, Steve. Thanks. I'm enjoying Dress Down Friday this afternoon.
It's always dressed down, isn't it? I mean, that's the benefit of being in our very Sharesify offices. You know,
indeed.
The dress code is dictated by us.
Yeah, I mean, normally I would wear a jumper and a shirt, but in your executive office with the aircon, obviously you've got you can just wear a t-shirt all the time. I'm living the dream now.
You have been sporting a bodyboard on occasion, haven't you?
I have, haven't I? Yeah.
I know you've been rifling through these spreadsheets and you've discussed previously about US banks. We've come to the end of the US bank reporting bit of the earnings season, but there's some major banks that have reported since we last discussed it. What have you spotted?
Yeah, we had JP Morgan and Citi, and so they're a bit mixed. The two that have really stood out this week, Goldman and Morgan Stanley. So these are the big, heavy hitters on Wall Street, and they both smashed estimates completely. And Goldman Sachs set a new Wall Street record for profits for a single company a quarter, $4.4 billion. Not just for itself. That's a record for any Wall Street company ever in a single quarter. Comes out to $14 a share. The forecast was less than $12 a share.
Blimey, that is a big blowout, isn't it?
Yeah. So most of this is on the back of deals. There were $5 trillion of M&A, corporate fundraising, and so on last year. $5 trillion. I'll just say $5 trillion of deals. And Goldman did about a third of that. They did 1.5 trillion.
Yeah. So
there was a little extra in there because they undid their deal with Apple on their Apple credit card. JP Morgan took that over. That generated a gain of about 145 million bucks. It also freed up $2.5 billion of capital, which they put aside for bad loan provisions. But Goldman really is the gold standard.
And I suppose going ahead, I mean, 26 will be pretty good for the investment bank as well, because there's quite a full pipeline of IPOs speculated about anyway. I mean, we were talking off camera previously, but I mean, there's lots of gossip about SpaceX possibly coming to the market. Anthropic, big AI firm, coming to the market. There's been a few different bits and bobs bubbling around. They're all speculation at the moment. But I mean, even AI might throw its hat into the ring. So you can't guarantee anything as yet. But if some of those companies do IPO, that's going to be mega bucks, isn't it?
Oh, it really is. It would be an absolute bonanza on Wall Street, because you're talking Anthropic, 350 billion is the rough market value, private market value. OpenAI, 500 billion, and SpaceX, 800 billion.
And of course, these figures, as large as they are, I mean, these are based on valuations some time ago. So as months go by and they are perceived to be adding increasing value, you could presume that the market, the management teams will be going to the market saying we want to downside more.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was this week on Wall Street. Next week, we've got two of your big names. We've got Intel and we've got Netflix. And I know you wrote up Netflix this week.
Yeah, we looked at Netflix, and we discussed Netflix the other day, so I won't labour that one. We'll certainly be keeping an eye on that it's after hours on Tuesday. Really interesting though is Intel. I mean, it's been really out of favour for what had been out of favour for such a long time. And last year, its stock price really started to rally. I think that the perception is that new management have come in and they can actually start to grab hold of some of this AI revenue that they've been perceived to miss out on.
I was going to ask you, where does it sit in the AI universe? Because it's not a stock we hear talked about in the same way as AMD or Nvidia.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it cut its teeth making designing chips for CPUs, so computer processing units, which are the brains of computer laptops and PCs. But of course, as we've increasingly gone mobile, the chips have changed, and we're increasingly now talking about GPUs, so graphics processing units, which are just much quicker and they can handle much bigger chunks of data. And they're not very good at the GPU stuff, but that will come in time. But the other big overhang has been they're a manufacturer on the one hand, they're also a designer on the other hand, and most of the chip industry has decided to go down one path or the other. So TSMC, big contract manufacturer, doesn't design chips. AMD, Nvidia, they design chips, but they don't make them. So the idea is that Intel may or may not spin those businesses out from each other at some point. But it'd be interesting to see then when they do report, to see what is their progress in terms of AI, in terms of mobile in general, in terms of designs and so on. There's also talk about TSMC is so constrained with its supply that it's having to put blockers on people like AMD and Nvidia. It's saying we can't take on any more workloads because we just don't have the capacity.
Wow.
So this is obviously brilliant for the chip industry, because when you've got massive demand and limited supply, that normally means unit prices go through the roof. So that's another factor that'd be worth watching with Intel to see what their commentary says. You've got some eyes on next week as well.
Yeah, so the US, it's not all tech. We've got P&G, Proctor Gamble coming out, the world's biggest consumer health company. Really good read across. It should give us a really good read across at least to Reckitt and Unilever, especially now that Unilever's got rid of the ice cream business.
Right.
So it's now
Magnum,
more,
isn't it?
Yeah, so it's now really more a personal healthcare business, not a food business as well. So we'll look for P&G. That's going to be quite interesting. The other name I'll throw out there that people may not know as well is Freeport-McMoRan. It's one of the world's biggest copper and gold producers, and so gold, we all know, doubled or more last year, right? Nice if you hadn't sold your gold ETF in 2024 like me.
Yeah, but copper's been doing that as well recently, isn't it?
Yeah, copper is up 25% since the beginning of September. There's a wisdom tree ETF on that. Code is COPA. That was the kind of easiest proxy I could find, the quickest proxy I could find for the copper price. Now that's interesting because, say, Freeport, commodities are a lead indicator generally on the direction of the global economy. Freeport always puts in a big a long kind of view from the hill. This is what we're seeing in all our different markets. Right. So I always like to kind of touch base with them every year, half year, see what they're saying. It'll be their Q4 numbers, so we'll see what they have to say. In the UK, I will, in the immortal words of Jesse from the Fast Show, I will mostly be watching consumer names.
You're there, aren't you? Fast Show, was that a 90s show, wasn't it?
I'm not going to do the impression. I'm mostly watching B&M, which has been a bit of a shocker. Cranswick, one of our old favourites in the old
sausages,
shop. Yeah, Curry's, Gear for Music, which has been an amazing turnaround story. JD Sports, which has been under the cosh because sportswear shoemakers have all been downgraded by the US brokers. So JD Sports as well. And Wetherspoons, which... I like the pub companies. They've got good margins. They're doing a good job. They're doing a good job in a difficult consumer environment. They're actually doing pretty well. There's also results. You probably want to keep an eye out for Experian, the credit scoring company, Wise, the payments company, and Kinetic, the defense company, because they're all coming out next week as well.
Yeah, so a surprisingly busy January it's been. I mean, normally Januaries are relatively quiet, but this January seems to have been, there seems to have been a deluge of really fascinating statements and updates and so on.
Yeah, it has been very interesting. An interesting time to start our new business and put ourselves out there. There's certainly no shortage of material at the moment.
You're right here, bang on, Ian. And with that, I think we better wrap it up. But definitely get in touch with us if you can. This podcast will be made so much better if we have some input from people who listen, just questions or points to make or whatever it might be. So please send us an email on editorial@sharesify.com, and we'll try to get you involved in this podcast, and it'll just make for a more rounded experience rather than just me and Ian blathering on endlessly.
Two old gits sitting there talking shop.
Indeed. On that note, I think we'll call it a day for the day, and we'll have a happy weekend. And I'll touch base with you on the Monday, Ian, and with you listeners.
Have a good one.
Next time we see you.
Have a good one.
Cheerio.
Cheers. Bye.